First, Israel has announced it's expanding its military operations in the Gaza Strip. Large-scale evacuations of the enclave have been ordered, and according to Israel's defense minister, these would be added to security zones of the state of Israel. According to Gaza's health ministry, meanwhile, 41 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes today, including 19 who were killed following a strike on a UN clinic which was housing displaced Gazans. Our correspondent Noga Tarnopolsky is standing by in Jerusalem for us, and we can go across to her now. Noga, good afternoon to you. Are we back to a full-fledged war?
Well, we're inching towards that. Israel has not yet engaged in a ground invasion. It hasn't called up the reserves, and there are questions for the first time in Israel about whether all of those reservists would come back if called back. But for now, we seem to be flirting with a return to full-bore war, but not yet completely there. The Israeli army did respond to the claims that you just repeated about a UN facility being hit, saying that it was used as a control and operation center for the terrorist group Hamas, but there was no images or no evidence presented alongside that statement.
Noga, we have Israeli officials who are saying they're doing this to secure the release of the hostages, but what are hostage families themselves saying?
Truly, Delano, it's the hostage families feel as if the Israeli government has ordered the abandonment or the death of their loved ones, and they're saying so in extremely explicit terms today. The organization of the families of hostages said it was horrified to hear the defense minister's statement. They asked the Israeli government whether a proper government decision has been made, quote, to sacrifice the hostages for gaining more land. No answer has been forthcoming from the government. And this entire day in the Israeli media space has been taken over by shattered family members on the radio, on the televisions, and on the streets of Israel in protests, claiming that they are abandoned by the government. It's still ongoing. There are many protests on the streets here in Jerusalem.
And we also have this new, as you said, their protests against the prime minister, but also for one of the things of two of his aides who have been under arrest, who've been arrested for getting payments from Qatar. What's the latest on that front?
Right, that's a scandal gripping Israel that's been called Qatar Gate. Two of Netanyahu's top aides, including a guy who's really his right-hand man, Yonatan Urich, who's been in charge of the Prime Minister's communications for more than 10 years. They are under arrest, not only under arrest, but they're being held as suspects of security crimes. In other words, as if they were Palestinian terrorists. They're being held under difficult conditions. They're currently being interrogated. The claim against them in this case is that they, while working in the office of the prime minister, they did Qatar's bidding. Qatar, remember, is a country that's become a vaunted mediator during this war, but before that was known as the bank supporting Hamas. So the fact that two of the prime minister's top aides are suspected of working on the Qatari payroll and transmitting to the media notifications as if they came from the prime minister, where in fact these are Qatari messages, including messages that harmed the relationship between Egypt and Israel. This is really an immense scandal gripping all of Israel right now, from which the prime minister appears to be trying to escape.
And he will be escaping, won't he? Because he's heading off to Hungary.
That's exactly right. In the middle of all of these tragedies and crises, with families crying on the streets, the prime minister has decided to reward himself with a long weekend in Hungary. He's scheduled to leave tonight. He's going to leave the government in the hands of the justice minister, who is in charge with the laws that all of these Israelis are protesting against. The only information we've received about this trip is that he plans to discuss Iran and how to release the hostages. That's a quote, with Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who is also seeing pretty vast protests against him on the streets of Budapest.